everybody, and welcome to Strong Conversations Hot Takes from a Cultural Firebrand. It's your host, Dr. Carolyn Strong, said Cultural Firebrand. So, today we are going to talk about servant leadership beyond K 12. I know that we're talking about the teacher shortage and we're talking about how people are leaving the profession. But today I wanted to highlight some people that are not necessarily leaving the profession, but providing other ways for those of us that want to be of service to students and engage in servant leadership to do so without having to be in those spaces every day. So as you all know, I'm always going to bring you the best experts out there. So today we are talking to Dr. Don Parker, who I am going to bring on, and you all know how I get down. He is the him expert, so I'm gonna let him tell you all about himself. With no further ado, we are talking to Dr. Don Parker today. Hello, sir. How are you?
Good morning, Dr. Strong. I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Hanging in there. Hanging in there.
Awesome. Thanks for having me this morning.
Well, thank you for being here. So, as we do, you are the you expert. So, who are you and how are you?
Hey, I'm doing great. So, I'm Dr. Don Parker. I am a former health and physical education high school teacher. And from there, I became a dean of students. And then I went on to become an assistant principal for culture and climate. And from there, I went to become assistant principal for curriculum instruction. And eventually, I became principal. And so now what I do is I am an education consultant and professional development provider. And I go all across the United States, helping teachers build relationships with students who have trauma and helping teachers build relationships with students who have difficult, challenging classroom behavior. And so I just love traveling around doing professional development and doing education keynote speeches on how the teacher can build trusting relationships with students.
So, well, I'm always have love for the deans and those of us that have kind of focused and shaped our career around culture and climate, because as quiet as it's kept, culture and climate is what drives student achievement. And I feel like the sooner we fully recognize that, the quicker we'll be able to turn some of this stuff around. But that's a different show. That's a different episode. I do want to ask you this because as somebody personally that's kind of in the middle where I'm still, tied to traditional K-12, but I also do the professional development. A lot of what I hear is that those of us that are looking to engage in service in different ways are abandoning the kids, especially now that we're in a teacher shortage. It's like, there's a teacher shortage, that we're short on staff, and you're still making the decision to not be in there with them every day. As someone who's fully committed to the PD route, how do you address that?
Well, you know what? I wouldn't say that the educators are abandoning the kids because sometimes you have a calling or sometimes you have a purpose that's placed in your heart where you just want to do something different. And so the service that a lot of teachers give to the kids, if they feel like they want to go on and do something else, then it's probably best that they do that, because if their heart isn't in it anymore, they're not doing a service to themselves or a service to their students. So sometimes people want to have greater impact and serve in a different way. And so that's exactly what I'm doing, because I'm able to touch more students and teachers than I was when I served as a building principal, when I served as an assistant principal, when I served as a dean, and even when I served as a teacher. So what I do, providing professional development, where I have an impact on teachers, and those teachers are impacting their students. And so I feel like my impact is even greater as a professional development provider.
And see, that's it's funny that that's how you put it, because that's usually how I word it. It was what started me doing workshops in the first place. It was, okay, if I'm in a room with 30 educators and 20 districts are represented in those 30 educators, or 20 different schools are represented in those 30 educators, then I've just gotten the opportunity to potentially impact 20 different schools. And God only knows how many different students. with this 1-2 hour workshop.
Mm-hmm.
It was also kind of the mentality that led to the publisher that first approached about my first book. It was like, okay, you reached 20 districts in this one workshop. Now, what if we took all this information and put it in a book? Now, how far have we extended your reach even
Mm-hmm.
farther?
And that's true. And in addition to that, when you think about it, when we support teachers in teaching, or we support building principals and leading their schools, you're actually giving them tools to make them better at their jobs, or to help them to improve or continue, doing the great work that they're doing. And so when you do that, we are also combating teacher attrition or principal attrition, because we're giving them tools to where they can be more effective at their jobs, find more value in their jobs, and then find more pleasure because they're able to do a better job at what it is they're trying to accomplish in their schools. So in a way, we're also combating teacher attrition if you look at it from that standpoint.
Oh, you mean because we're putting into the toolkit instead of just sitting around being yet another person to talk about what the problem is, when we kind of already know what the problem is? We're trying to be more solution oriented.
Yeah, 100%. So, of course, when you do PD, there's a reason that the people are there with you in that room, because they want to learn what it is that you have, or maybe that you've experienced, or something that you're an expert in, that you can help them and, reduce their learning curve and accelerate their learning and accomplishing whatever task or goal, or what they want to learn. So, yes. So when they're there in your professional development workshops, we have the opportunity to share with them skills, innovative practices, and add value to them so that they can be more at their jobs.
Absolutely. So, in that, everybody has a story of what it was that kind of made them say, okay, this is where I want to be. This is where I need to be. This is now the turn I want to make. I know what it was for me, but what was it for you?
Well, ever since I earned my doctorate degree, I've been doing professional development. And I remember specifically when I was the dean of students at a high school, and we were having a school improvement day. But my principal didn't want to bring in speakers from the outside. She wanted people in the building to share with the staff things that they know that they can help their colleagues with. So she came to certain people in the building and said, hey, we're having a school improvement day. I want to make it like a round robin where the teachers can go to different sessions. And she said, well, you do a session on classroom management. Since you're the dean of students, you have great experience working with students with challenging behavior. I want to equip my teachers to improve their skills for classroom management and working with students who may have challenging behavior. So will you run a session during this school improvement day? I was like, absolutely. And so I ran that session, and I really enjoyed, providing the professional development to the teachers, sharing with them what I knew, what I experienced, and what I studied when I was studying for my doctorate degree. And I found such a sense of reward for that. I think that's the seed that was planted in my heart at that time, that I really enjoyed doing professional development. And so then I was doing professional development at different education service centers where teachers come for PD. I constructed an administrators academy through South Cook. And once they publicized that I was doing the administrators academy, like people were signing up for this administrators academy to the point where I was doing it like 3 or 4 times a year. And every time
I
I
think
did
I
it,
came to that to one of your first academies.
sure, I remember we met a long time ago. And
Mm-hmm.
when people came to the session, and after the session, when they would tell me how much they learned and how much they were going to take back what they learned in the academy, and use those skills in their job, and how much they appreciated me just showing them different things, I just got a rewarding feeling from that. And so it was somewhere along my journey where I felt like, man, you know what? I could really see myself doing this full time, because I get such exhilaration from doing this work. And so that's how I really started coming to embrace the possibility of being a full-time professional development provider. So it didn't happen right away. I
I was
can
about to say, so then after that, you just quit your job and jumped into full time PD, and it was all good, right?
well, it didn't happen right away. So so I transitioned from being a dean to being an assistant principal, and I was doing a lot of professional development, probably one session a month. And eventually I became principal. And I wasn't able to get out of the building in order to do the professional development because I needed to be there. I needed to, make sure the school was running well. So I just, took a back seat on doing professional development. I would do some sessions over the summer or every once in a while, but it wasn't nearly as often. And then after being in my building for about 2 or 3 years, I felt like things could run well. My assistant principals were there to, handle anything in the building. So I felt comfortable, leaving to do the professional development. And I had a conversation with my boss at the time, and he said, "You have to make a decision whether you want to do PD full time, but I really, want you to make a commitment to be here and run this building." And I was thinking, well, you know what? I feel like I can do both. And of course, this is my full-time commitment to making sure that my school runs well. And that's my primary job. And that's exactly what I want to do. I want to make sure that, my school is running well and my students are getting a quality education and that we are having student growth. And so that was my commitment. And so I was committed to that. But the requests kept coming, and I felt like I had the capacity to run my building and do professional development on the side. And so it just came to a point where I saw how much of an impact that I can have doing professional development. And um, and so I said, you know what? I do want to spread my wings and impact more than just the people in my building. And so that's kind of when I made the decision that I do want to do professional development full time.
So I know that you do kind of have a course on how to help people navigate that, because one of the things that I've learned on my own journey is that, like you just said, when you think that you have the capacity to do both, there's usually one entity or another that's going to say, for lack of a better phrase, you can't serve two masters.
Mm-hmm.
And when that time comes, I guess what you do next becomes very important. So for the person out there that has been given that ultimatum, sounds kind of nefarious, but I mean, in a sense, that's kind of what it is. That's been given that directive, I guess is a better word, of
Mm-hmm.
there's only one of you. You can't be in two places at once. Either you're all in this building, or you're all in to do your professional development. If they've decided that it's the latter, I'm all in to do that professional development. From your lens, what does that process now look like?
Okay, so to me, what the process looks like is you have to make sure that that is the calling. So I didn't come to make this decision on my own. Okay, I'm a very spiritual person, and I truly believe that we should do what we feel God has purposed us to do. And so one of the way my friends described it to me when I was talking to them, that I had this strong desire to do professional development. He's like, well, you should do that. And I was like, I know, but I'm also enjoying being a principal. He's like, well, you know what, Don? Think of it like a traffic light. Like when God wanted you to serve as a principal, he put you in the building to serve as a principal. So he turned that light red. You were supposed to make that stop on your journey. But now that light has turned green. And God is telling you that it's time to move on and do something different. And you're still sitting there at a green light. So he's like, you need to make a move. And so really, I wouldn't suggest that somebody do something just because they feel like it's what they want to do. I feel like they should do it because they feel like it's God's purpose. And so I meditated on this, I prayed, and I really asked God. I said, God, you know what? He doesn't always reveal what his plan is for your life. So you just have to ask him to use you as an instrument and just let him know that you're willing
Especially
to.
when you asking. Sometimes you gotta wait.
You have to wait. And so sometimes you just have to just let him know that you will surrender your will to what it is that he wants you to do. And so I just pray this prayer is just, God, use me as your instrument. All right. Um, I want to do what it is that you want me to be doing. And so I prayed that prayer. And, they say the Lord works in mysterious ways. And so I'm not going to say that I had all the boldness and courage to just go out and do professional development, but I was in a position where I found that I could do the work full time. And so I started like building a pipeline of dates on the calendar and looking at the requests that I had coming in. And once, that was almost like confirmation that this is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. And so once I saw the amount of requests that were coming, and how many people wanted me to come speak and do professional development, then what they say is God also provides a way, like financially. And so when I saw that, I said, okay, it's time to go ahead and transition into being a full-time professional development provider.
So you're transitioning into, it's time. You've gotten the signs that you need to know that it's time. But what about insurance? What about sick days? Like if I'm in this building, I'm safe, right? Because if I'm having a bad day, or if I don't feel good, or if my kid doesn't feel good and I don't go to work, I still get paid. When I'm working for myself, if I don't go to work.
Well, let me tell you something. So as a budding entrepreneur, I read a lot of books on, self-improvement, personal development, entrepreneurship, and things like that. And so Robert Kiyosaki, who's the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, he has a quote in that book that says, salary is that drug that keeps you from living your dreams. All right. And so, yes, you do worry about insurance. You do worry about benefits. You do worry about that consistent paycheck and things like that. Okay. But what you have to realize is that you can have a lucrative career doing professional development. So let me tell you a quick story. My wife and I took our kids on vacation in Florida, and I booked the rental car. But by the time it was time to go on vacation, when we got off the airplane, went over to the rental car kiosk, and I had to present my driver's license in order to rent the car. When the customer service rep looked at my driver's license, he said, "Wow, your driver's license is expired. I cannot give you the car." And so we had to wait for them to switch the car in my wife's name. And it took at least 2 hours. So now my wife is frustrated because here we are in Florida. The kids want to get to the pool. They want to swim. They want to go to the theme parks. But we're sitting up here inside of a rental car agency waiting for the car. And so my wife was like, "Di, you are irresponsible. I told you that you need to get your driver's license renewed. And now you see the problem that we're having."
I'm surprised they let you on the plane.
Well, she said, "Now you see the problem that we're having because you didn't do what you were supposed to do. So as soon as we get back to Chicago, you have to go get your driver's license renewed." I was like, okay. So we get back from Chicago, and I'm gathering all the materials in order to show proof of identity when I go to the DMV. And so my wife, like, she's excellent. She's a former branch manager at Chase Bank. So she does an excellent job paying all our bills and everything like that. To be honest with you, I haven't looked at a bill in years because she takes care of it. Everything is in her name. And so I was like, "Babe, I need something in my name that's attached to our address. When I go to the DMV, I can prove that I am who I am and I live where I live, because they require these documentations for identification." And so she said, "Well, just print off a check stub." I'm like, "You right, that's a great idea." And so I went online, I printed off my check stub, and I looked at my check stub. We get paid every 2 weeks. And so I looked at what I made every 2 weeks, and I compared it to a check that I got from doing a recent professional development.
From one PD.
Yep. I said, wow, I had to work 2 40-hour weeks in order to earn this. And doing 1 day at PD earned me this, which is more than my paycheck. I was like, okay, this is like, God can't say this any louder, that this is the direction that he wants me to go in. Because at the time, I had really been thinking about, my youngest daughter who has autism, and she has a rare genetic disease that's called FOXP1. And when she got that diagnosis, the pediatrician and the specialist told us that she would need daily assisted living for the rest of her life.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is also inspiration and motivation for me, is to I have a responsibility to my family and to my kids
Mm-hmm.
to earn enough money to generate generational wealth. And so when I saw that I could be a high earner doing PD, and that I could put, money to the side for my youngest daughter, it was just God saying, "Hey, I'm providing a way for you. And by the way, this is how I want to use you to make an impact on educators." And so all the stars, sun, moon aligned to where here I am now as a successful professional development provider who love what I do. And, I just trust the Lord to take care of all of me and my family's financial needs.
It didn't get much clearer than that. It does not get much clearer than that. So I do know that you've been doing some webinars, kind of telling other people how to get into this, but I know you have a course as well.
Mm-hmm.
So if there are people now, is this course, tell me about this course. Is it so you've decided that you want to be a professional development provider, let's get started? Or is it a come and sit with me so we can work out if this is something you think you want to do?
All right. So when I started like experience success as a professional development provider, I would leverage social media. So I would post a lot of the things that I was doing at the different places where I was speaking on different platforms like LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. And people would see this and they would reach out to me and they would be like, "Don, you know what? I love what you're doing. I also want to do a professional development. I also want to be a professional development provider. This is something that I want to do. Like, can we meet on a Zoom or can we meet at Starbucks?" And a lot of these people were personal friends. Some people were strangers, but they would ask if I could jump on the Zoom and meet, or if I could meet at Starbucks and just kind of talk them through the process of how I went from being a school principal to now, you know, a pretty well-renowned professional development provider. And I was like, sure. But there's not enough time in the day to meet with everybody, from all these requests I was getting.
Goes back to that reach.
It goes back to that reach. And so, of course, as a professional development provider, you have to spend time generating new business. You have to spend time preparing for your workshops and taking care of the business side of running your speaking business. So I wouldn't always have time to meet or jump on Zooms. So um, my wife came up with the idea is, why don't you create an online course that people can just take on demand, and you can just share with them the steps that you took in order to become a professional development provider. I was like, that's a great idea. So she's a professional photographer and video production specialist. So she set up the camera, and I just, you know, picked out the top 7 topics or things that people would need to do in order to become a professional development provider. And I just jumped in front of the camera and I just poured, like sharing my journey, sharing my experience, and telling people what I did step by step in order to make that transition from being a principal to being a professional development provider. And I help people, build their brand, find out what their niche and expertise is, how to get booked and stay booked, and how to run their speaking business. And so the course is called Increasing Your Income and Impact as a Professional Development Provider. And that's exactly what I do. I teach people how to increase their impact. And so that is getting booked and presenting in front of different groups and large groups of people. So that's increasing their impact. But then also how to increase their income, and how to get paid, and how to get paid for the value that you provide to educators as a professional development provider. And so the course is 7 modules, and under each module there's like 3 or 4 lessons under each module, and people can just purchase the course, click the link, and then just go through the modules. And I promise you, if they do the activities that I tell them to do, all right, they will see an increase in their business.
So I have 2 questions. How do they access the course? And does this come with some coaching?
Okay. Yes. So absolutely. So I am willing to and committed to providing coaching and personal support to people who purchase my course. So the way you find the course, there's 2 ways. So I run webinars once every like 2 or 3 weeks, where I just come up with a topic of some like really great information that professional development providers or aspiring professional development providers need to know in order to increase their business and increase their revenue and increase their impact. And so if they jump on that webinar, I always offer my course at the end of that webinar. Also, people can go to my website at drdonparker.com and they can just look under courses. And under courses, there's a link to my course, Increase Your Income and Impact as a Professional Development Provider. And people who purchase my course, I will set up a time with them where I would take them through a cycle of coaching. So if they need any more follow-up information or just have any questions from one of the modules, they need further information, I'll provide that to them. I'll talk them through whatever issues that they're having so that they can continue to build their confidence and do what's necessary in order to become a successful professional development provider.
So how much is the course?
So the course is $749.
Okay.
And that's an extremely good price. And I will tell you that,
with coaching, absolutely.
Oh, 100%. And here's the deal. Like, I really want to help people and add value to people. And there's a quote that says, successful people become successful because of what they do for themselves. But leaders become successful because they help other people be successful. And that's what I want to do. So I do miss the leadership aspect of being the principal of a school, because I was able to help teachers become better. I was able to help students become better. This gives me a way to continue to lead and help others become better. And so that's what I do with the course. And so you will learn step by step everything you need to do in order to experience success as a professional development provider by just watching the modules and doing the activities that I have in the module, because there's a workbook companion that accompanies the course. And so as they're watching the modules, I have a booklet, and they can just write down, they know exactly what to do in order to, do those same activities that I did. And so what I'm doing is accelerating people's growth and decreasing the learning curve, because I'm sharing with them.
It sounds like you're helping them build a business plan too.
At 100%. That's one of the modules is, going from lesson plans to business plans. And so I don't want them to experience all of the pitfalls or mistakes that I made. And so I tell them what to do and also what not to do in order to be successful.
Well, it sounds like you out here. Well, it doesn't sound like you are out here doing the thing, and I couldn't be prouder.
I appreciate it, sis. I appreciate that. Thank you.
I couldn't be prouder
you too, because you are making some big moves, and you also are one who has had such a huge positive impact on students and teachers as your work in a dean of students role. So you have a heart to help others as well. And that's why you have this platform, so you can share with others resources that they can grow from. And so, I also want to give you some flowers too, Dr. Strong, and I want to thank you for having me as your guest.
Thank you. How do people find you? I want to close out with them, so how they can find you and go get this course.
All right. Yep. So they can shoot me an email at drdonparker@drdonparker.com. They can also go to my website, drdonparker.com. And they can just click on the contact me now button, and that will shoot an email directly to my inbox. And if they want to continue to keep in touch to see the things that I'm doing, they can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. And my Facebook is Dr. Don Parker. And my Twitter is Dr. Don Parker 1. And my Instagram is Dr. Don Parker 5. And so,
all right. So I just want to make sure all of those are correct down there.
Yep. Yeah, so basically I built it. So if you know my name, you can find me.
and you know what? I wish I had thought of that, because I'm strong conversations everywhere, which isn't really always helpful.
But it's good because it's tied to your name. I like what you did there.
It is.
That's very creative. It is. I like what you did there. I told you that is the coolest name, Strong. Who wouldn't want the name Strong? All right.
Well, thank you. I'm sure my baby Ever definitely got the long end of the stick on that one.
Mm-hmm. So it definitely.
Sometimes my oldest is like, her name is cooler than mine. She's Ever Strong. I'm like,
Yeah, you do have a very great name, and it fits you.
Well, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're going to close it out here. If you have not done so already, y'all need to roll through drdonparker.com. I have been on one of the webinars. It's a lot of good information there. So if you are indeed looking to make this transition, I suggest you check it out. And I mean, the coaching alone is worth its weight in gold because you have a lot of information to impart to the people. And I mean, it's not like you're not talking about these things in theory. These are things that you have already done. So, and they're working for you because it's not like you over here, like anybody got one of them school jobs I could get back.
Dr. Strong, let me tell you. And so when I was a PE teacher, okay, I made sure that I stayed in shape so I could talk the talk and walk the walk. Same thing. When I became a dean of students and I was teaching teachers classroom management strategies, all right, I was able to talk the talk and walk the walk. Same thing when I became principal. I told my staff, I won't ask you to do anything that I won't do myself or anything that I haven't done myself. And I'm a strong believer in servant leadership, okay, because the quote says, if servant is too far beneath you, then leadership is too far above you. And so as a coach for people who want to get into professional development provider, all right, I can talk the talk because I walk the walk. These are things that I've done, and these are things that I continue to do on a consistent basis to experience success. And if you, tune in, dial in, and commit to doing the things that I share, then you too will also experience success as a professional development provider.
You know how many people forget about the servant and servant leadership, but again, that's a whole nother topic that we could go off on a tangent.
We'll have to come back. We'll have to come back on and do
We'll have to reconvene for that. That's just going to be a topic by itself. Sure. It starts with servant, right? So with that being said, I want to thank you for coming on. I thank you all for, per usual, rocking with Strong Conversations, hot takes from a cultural firebrand. Until next time, have a good one, y'all.
You've been listening to Strong Conversations, hot takes from a cultural firebrand. Make sure to like our Facebook page at Strong Conversations or follow us on Twitter at Dr. Carolyn Strong. Until next time, have a good one.